Hey guys, Youngblood here, and let's get back to our Liberator's Log series where we're going to talk about bombing approaches today. Before we even get started, you may notice a couple of these clips are a little bit lower quality, and that's because I was testing out a new recording software, but decided to go back to my previous one because I liked the way it looked better. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. The first platform I want to talk about is your stationary bombing platform, and that's really just going to be where you are taking advantage of the fact that you're in a vertical takeoff machine, and you can just hover in one place and let your gunner unleash hell. Now, some things to keep in mind with this. If you're running the Zephyr, typically you need to run or hover a little bit lower because the infantry doesn't really render as far. That's great because the Zephyr has a 6-round magazine, meaning you can do a lot of damage against infantry. But when you're low, the obvious problem is that you're an easy target for Maxes and Sky Guards and rockets. So it's something you're going to need to keep in mind. Now, when you're flying a little bit higher and using the Dalton, this is where I actually like just using the hover and staying put. It's giving your gunner a good opportunity to really line up his shot with the one-shot Dalton and wreak havoc on the vehicles that are below. They're not going to be as much of a direct threat unless it's a Sky Guard because they're not going to be able to point their turret straight up at you, and it works a little bit better. All right, so some things to consider with this. You're an easy target, but here's the upside. You keep your gunner on the target, and it's probably the single easiest way to farm for points. Now, with you being an easy target, the other thing that's a problem is, objects at rest tend to stay at rest, or whatever the physics term is. You're not moving. All your engines are pointing down, so in order for you to actually get out of there, it takes longer to move. So you need to make sure that you're aware of that and you know when it's time to leave and get out of the situations. My general rule of thumb is if I take a shot from one stationary rocket, I'm getting out of there. Now, this isn't my favorite way to gun, just mainly for the fact that there's other things you can do to net you similar results without putting yourself quite at risk. This is the easiest way to get killed. You can see there that I took a shot from an unguided rocket as well as a Max or a Skyguard or something, and all of a sudden I'm dead within about 5 seconds. That's the obvious danger. One that's a little bit less obvious, but just as equal of a threat, is getting nailed by a drop pod. When you're just hovering there, I know when you're coming down in a drop pod, it's obviously the first thing that you're thinking of. I'm going to ram this thing into somebody. So keep that in mind. It's going to make a big difference, and you need to kind of be aware of your surroundings so you know how to do it. So the only time that I really recommend stationary gunning is when you're only going to be fighting infantry, and you can kind of have your gunner keep an eye out for you, or if you're high altitude bombing with a Dalton and zoom optics against a armored target. Now, a slightly more advanced version of stationary bombing is going to be just strafing. Basically, all you do in order to pull this off is you're going to roll your ship to one side and use the space bar to kind of push you back and forth. When you get to a certain point, maybe out of the engagement zone, roll back the other way and just strafe back. I really like this method for when I'm fighting infantry, especially if there's heavies on the ground without lock-ons. This is going to give you still a fairly stable platform where your gunner's going to be able to stay on target really well, and it's going to make it harder for the enemy heavies to hit you with their rockets. Now, obviously, you're still a pretty easy target for anything automatic, so think Burster Maxes and turrets and Sky Guards. They're still going to have a very easy chance to hit you, and any really good heavy is still going to hit you, but bottom line, it makes it harder. So you get the benefits of actually gunning like on a stationary platform while increasing your survivability. Even if it's not by a lot, at least it's a little bit. This is probably my second favorite way of actually gunning. Now, one I don't actually have any videos for that I wanted to just hit on real briefly is just the bombing run. This is decent for infantry, or I personally like to do this with a tank buster. You're going to come in, you're going to light up the tank or whatever you're shooting at with the tank buster and lift up and let your gunner actually finish off the target. That takes a little bit of coordination, but it's highly effective. Against infantry or large groups, it's not real great because you're not spending much time there. However, if you really can coordinate with your team, maybe you've got a Bulldog on the back, you've got a Zephyr on the bottom, and you're lighting things up with the tank buster in front, you can do continual strikes, and maybe something like auto repair would be beneficial for that because you're getting out of that engagement zone. Anyways, I don't do that very often, but it is an option out there if you want to try and look into that or try and play that way because it does. It's one of those bombing methods where you get quite a bit of survivability out of it. Now, The last one I really wanted to talk about is just circling, and this is kind of that iconic AC-130 approach. This is where you're going to really just be keeping your gunner on target by doing a belly-in turn. It's the one where you have the highest survivability, but the problem is you're not keeping your gunner on target very long. You're constantly circling a base. I like this for engaging an amp station. It's okay in the right situation, but you need to know when you can actually use it. It's going to keep you alive longer, and it's probably best in situations that are kind of crazy, like when you've got anti-air and rockets and ESFs. It's the best where you're keeping mobile and staying out of the danger zone as much as possible. The last thing I really wanted to talk about was I wanted to show you this example from Koolaid and I. I'm flying, Koolaid's gunning, and I want you to kind of see how we coordinate together. Now, I'm going to do an episode later on where I'm actually talking about communicating with your gunners, but what I want you to see here is how I keep him on target. When you fly in third person, you're able to see where your gunner is actually firing. That's one of the main benefits of flying a lib in third person. Outside of that, I recommend keeping on the mic, using proximity chat if you have to. I'll go into some other things that you can do, but know how far you can tilt your craft and keep your target on, or keep your gunner on target. The single best way to do that, if you're only a pilot, switch over and gun. Just wait in the warp gate, hop in a lib if somebody will actually let you gun without booting you out. But I recommend you spending some time in the gunner seat so you know what sort of angles you need to keep as a pilot to keep your target or your gunner on target. So, with that being said, I'll crank up the volume, let you listen to me and Koolaid, and I'll be back soon for another episode of Liberator's Log. Thanks.
The facility's lost. Fall back and regroup.
Nice.
Nailed that sun there right at the end.
Alright, we're just going to put down right here and head straight back.
Ooh. Was that a lock-on or something that hit us at the end?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't get any tone at all.
No, the tone is completely broken right now. That's kind of why I'm bailing out kind of quick when we start taking damage, because there could be 3 missiles on us that I wouldn't even know were coming.
Yeah, I got the Dalton, by the way, so I'm mainly trying to go for the vehicles.
Well, it worked. You got 2 Sunderers there, didn't you?
Yeah, but the splash is kind of poop on it.
Does that work? You want me a little bit further up?
This is good.
Visual on hostile engineers.
I don't know where that's coming from.
Probably from within the shielded area. I'm just going to kind of drift.
Alright. I see a bunch of dead infantry. That's it.
Spotted an enemy heavy. Spotted an enemy heavy.
Nice. I think there's a burster max down there too. One of the other libs was just taking some fire. Yep.
Yeah, I see him. He's hiding.
Spotted an enemy heavy.
Yeah, he's firing at the other lib right now. Shit. Alright. Repair time.